We are two best friends talking about life inside and outside of the gym as women, daughters, sisters, aunties, coaches, and friends.
We will tackle topics ranging from the nervous system, divorce, body image, and dating in your 40s.
We also like to nerd out on the inner workings of the heart, mind, and body. All content, opinions, and ideas are taken from our 47 years of combined coaching experience and is not medical advice.
We don't apologize for being strong or believing we can change the world. We don't take ourselves too seriously around here, and we invite you to do the same. Well, what have we got
there.
here?
Hello there.
Hello there.
Another Dear Life I'm In podcast.
It's funny, and I'm sitting across from you again. No, not really. This is kind of great. Hello.
Hello.
And thanks for listening to the Dear Life I'm In podcast. I am Chantel Dayton.
And I am Lou Crenshaw.
Yes. And
I like to call myself the shorter half of this dynamic duo.
the little one.
The little one. That's what your dad called me the other day.
Yes, he did.
Did you
Yes.
leave the little one back there?
Yep. It was pretty
You are
funny.
much taller than I am.
I am. Yeah, which I feel like surprises some people when they meet us in person for the first time. They just think that I wonder how big they actually think you are.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny when they do
surprised
see you.
as to how-
They're like, "Oh, hi, Lou." And then I'm like, wonder what's going on in their head right now. And then it does come
I
out.
thought you were taller.
I thought you were much bigger than what you are.
Yeah, nope.
Oh man. Yeah. So we are business partners. We are best friends. And this podcast we
Currently
talk
in this
about,
season of life, we're roommates as well. So
Yes.
we spend
Yes.
a lot of time together.
I
And
try not to
always
say
just
that every time, just because I'm like, I don't know why.
But it's kind of funny.
It is.
But then I always then say, and we're still friends. Mm-hmm. Yep. Which I think is maybe a feat that some may not have overcome.
Yeah. So I am one of 4 siblings, and I am the only girl.
Okay.
And so I have brothers. And so you have definitely become a sister to me, especially in the last probably 5 years of our friendship.
Yeah.
And I do feel like it shifted when we became roommates.
Yeah, I think
because it really was like even
Cat fights.
I am talking to some of my clients and they're talking about their relationship with their sister and they're like, man, I just want to like rip their head off. But then I would die for them in the next breath. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Lou and I are sisters.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it really is like such a unique and beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
A sisterhood is. And I mean, you have a sister and your sister is incredible. I absolutely love her.
Yeah.
And
I
she's,
also have 2 brothers too.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you're the oldest.
I am the oldest. Mm-hmm. Yep. You are the youngest. Well, youngest and then
Yeah.
a brother came along.
One came along 7 years later.
Yeah.
The biggest one of all of us. Yeah.
But you definitely still function like the baby of the family.
What is that supposed to mean?
And just, you're like the youngest.
Please tell everyone. what is that? I'll take a sip of my coffee here as you.
Are you really drinking coffee right now?
No, I'm not drinking
Oh.
coffee.
like,
I
it's
just
kinda
wanted
late
them
in the
to
day.
believe that I was. No, it is definitely water.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I do function.
See how I dodged that one. Anyways,
very-
moving on.
I do very much so function as not the firstborn, not the middle child, but for sure the baby.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just,
I am a very typical firstborn.
you don't say.
Are you going to load the dishwasher like that? But you could put so many more dishes in the dishwasher.
Why would you want to do that?
And you could like make it really organized and, save on water and,
Oh my gosh.
I very much function like a firstborn who's learning to just lighten up a little bit.
Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why firstborn's good friends with babies of the family. It's a nice little balance.
Yes.
Too bad in our business, neither one of us are administrative or organized, but
This is very
that's okay.
true. Yes, we're organized in other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I did read something the other day that said there's always one person that loads the dishwasher like a Scandinavian architect, and the other loads the dishwasher like a raccoon on meth. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm the raccoon on meth.
You are definitely the raccoon on meth. You're definitely the raccoon on meth.
Throw it in there. Close eyes. If it lands where it lands.
Yeah, but what's so weird, because it's really funny, because I'm not a super organized OCD type person. We just, in our family, there was a joke, and it was called the Langford packing gene, which is my grandfather's last name. And you could just take and they could just pack things away, like pack a car, or, pack a storage unit or something like that. And so I didn't get anybody's sense of direction in my family genetics, because I am directionally challenged to no end. It's embarrassing. But I've just accepted it, and I just humbly know I never usually know the direction that I'm going in. But I can pack a car, storage unit, dishwasher.
Yeah.
Yep. The gym. It's like Tetris in here with all the equipment.
And you can friggin' kill a game of Blockus.
Yes. It's so lame, because nobody wants to play with me. So
I always want to play with you.
No, you don't. You're like,
Yeah,
I don't want to play Blockus.
It's just really...
Blockus.
I have beat you once.
This is true. Yeah.
And
I blocked that out from my memory.
Well, you should remember it.
Yeah, you can remember it. Remind me that one time you beat me.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Well, don't your grandma and your mom, didn't they have degrees in...
Yeah, my grandfather and my grandmother, they both graduated from UCLA with geography degrees.
Yeah. And
my grandfather was a city planner, and my grandmother was a cartographer. And then my mom got a degree in geography as well. And then my brother and my sister have really great senses of direction. All the grandkids have really great senses of direction. Not me.
That is so wild.
If I feel like we should go right, we should definitely go left. That is my sense of direction. It's awful. Yeah. And I don't hide it. I'm not embarrassed of it. I am just very humble, and you probably don't want to ask me which direction to go.
No.
No,
I've learned that.
Yes. My grandma used to get in the car with me and say, let's go southwest. I'm like, Grandma.
I mean, who says let's go southwest?
My grandma, she's a cartographer.
I know. Yeah. That is such a, yeah.
She drew maps. That's what she did.
Yeah, southwest.
Yep. Really.
You're
really
like,
well.
okay, hold on a second. Siri,
no clue.
Siri,
which way is southwest? Or looking at your car, the little compass in the car.
And you just keep turning until
it says SW.
You're like, oh yeah, okay. I got you, Grandma.
Oh boy.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah, I bet you
Anyways.
do. Yes.
What are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about a lot of different things today, but we're going to talk about the Flo Effect, which is something that we have developed over many, gosh, it hasn't really been many years, but
middle of COVID.
Yeah, like kind of right in the smack
online
middle,
dating in COVID. We started a podcast during COVID, and we started developing the Flo Effect during COVID.
Yeah. And so I just kind of wanted to start with just acknowledging that you and I both have an athletic background, right?
Yes.
And so in my experience...
What sort of background do you have? I'm sorry.
In my experience, I have a martial arts background. And so growing up, I practiced martial arts, but I was also super active. I'd mentioned that I had brothers, so I was always out and about playing football and going fishing and riding bikes all over and skateboarding and rollerblading. And so I was always active. So when I was 12 years old, I started my period. And so at that point in time, I feel like a lot of things changed.
Everybody's like, where's this podcast going?
Yeah. So when I started my period when I was 12, there was definitely like an insecurity that kind of snuck in, but playing sports and being on your period sucked. Like I remember as a young girl just not wanting to wear white pants, gi pants, karate pants, because you were afraid that you were going to bleed through. And so I would just not go to karate when I was on my period, or I would not work out when I was on my period. And I also just didn't feel great, right? So I didn't feel like I wanted to move the week before, and nobody really talked about it, growing up. My mom didn't talk about her period very often, and my friends, they definitely, like, once they started, nobody knew like when anybody started, because it wasn't anything that we talked about. And it was also something that I kind of wanted to even like get rid of, or I found it so inconvenient, and never thought of it as something that was, I knew everybody had one, but there was still like so much shame.
Everybody or women?
Women is what I meant. Yes. Yeah, good point. Yes. So I knew that women had one, but how come nobody talks about it? And so there were always these questions that I had, but then also there was nothing that I just thought that it was just a week where I couldn't work out and I couldn't do anything. Right. So I don't know what your experience was when you were younger and when you started your period being active, what that felt like for you. But for me, I felt like I couldn't talk about it and I couldn't work out when I was on my period.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I started my period when I was 15, I think, maybe 14 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And I remember the day that I started my period, but after that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a thing that we talked about, or, it was just an inconvenient time where a couple days before you got a little cray, and then the thing happened, and then you just went on with the rest of the month until it happened again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
it was pretty much there wasn't conversations around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you kind of gave yourself permission to overeat or to eat things that weren't, at least I did, like beforehand, I was always like, oh, like I hear this is what you do, because this is where, I have PMS, so I have cramps and I don't feel good. And so I'm going to eat chocolate or eat ice cream or kind of sulk.
I really had a lot of symptoms other than just being very bratty.
Yeah.
But I think I was probably already a little bratty.
Yeah, so
my mother might agree that I was bratty before I started my period.
Yeah, I mean, what teenage girl
feisty.
isn't? I mean, come on.
I was just a little feisty.
I'm sure you had some fire for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I had horrible periods. I had absolutely horrible periods when I was younger. And so, just really bad cramps, and where I didn't want to go to school. And I bled for 7 days, and this was very much so like from the beginning. But then as a teenager, as I moved into my 20s, still kind of the same kind of thing, and I think what's important is we're talking about what it was like being an athlete when we were younger and starting your period. And then as you go through life, still saying or labeling it as an inconvenience when you want to do physical things, or it's summertime,
or your performance just isn't going to be what it was. Yeah,
and you excuse yourself from the gym for a week, or because you are comparing the last week to this week and the week before that and the week before that. But when we first, even during COVID, when, I was saying just a little bit ago, we're going to talk about the Flo Effect. And so what is the Flo Effect, and what does this have to do with, fitness and this podcast? And it plays a really big role in what we do here at Drop Gym. And it really is, it's a way of working out and addressing what's happening in a woman's body as she is, even, and we're not even just talking about women who are still menstruating. We're talking about women who are perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal.
Yeah.
Right. So all the different stages of a woman's life, and even just looking at what does that look like, and how do we optimize it? How do we acknowledge where we're at? How do we give ourselves grace where we're at? But also, how do we challenge ourselves in a healthy way where we're at in whatever phase of life we're in, but then also whatever phase of our cycle that we're in? And so I would love it if you shared the story about like insert Kate Trost.
Yeah.
And what, because here at Drop Gym, we just kind of functioned in an all women's gym. It was safe to feel, to express. We did really hard things. And then COVID happened. And then our gym was shut down, and we started running classes online via Zoom, where we had all of our ladies. We checked out all the equipment in the gym. They went home. They joined us in the morning or in the evening. We did the group
We
class.
had just rebranded our gym the day that it closed down. We had changed the name. We had announced that we were sort of changing the name and the structure of our gym. And then boom, shut down. Unsure of would we ever open again.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many uncertainties, right? But let me go back, because in 2004, I started a personal training facility. So when I was 24, I started a gym. You can do the math. I'm 42. So I started a personal training facility when I was 24. I started personal training when I was 22. And I started doing CrossFit, coaching CrossFit, became a CrossFit affiliate in 2006. And so running group classes. And I remember somewhere around in there, maybe it was probably 2007, 2008. I remember coming across a video of a guy, and he was talking about the female menstrual cycle in fitness. And I knew, I was listening to him, and I remember knowing that this was so important. But at the time, I had no clue how would I implement this in a group setting where there were men and women, right? Like, how would I do that? Which is one of the beautiful things that we've done with the Flo Effect, is that the idea and the principles could be implemented in a gym filled with men and women. You know, a CrossFit gym, a regular group fitness class, or anything like that, or an all women's gym. But I remember knowing that it was important, but feeling so overwhelmed by, but how would you do that in a group setting without stopping the class and being like, okay, all you ladies that are on your period right now, please raise your hand. Like, nobody wants to do that. Or who's in follicular? Who's in luteal? Who's ovulating? Right?
Or who the hell knows what follicular ovulation,
It's true,
luteal is. I know when I'm bleeding and when I'm not bleeding.
Yeah.
Those were the two up until like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Bleeding, not bleeding.
Yes.
Those were the two parts.
Good call.
That's it.
Yes.
You know?
Took a while to remember it. Yeah. So it was during COVID, and one of our girls that was coming into the gym, she had done Camp 17 in one of our first tribes. Actually, she was in tribe 2 when she was 17 years old. And she was talking about the menstrual cycle. She told us about this book called The Woman Code. And I just asked her, I said, would you want to do a workshop, just an online Zoom call about this? And she was so excited to do it. And so, you know, we're all locked down at home. And I think you're in the kitchen watching on the Zoom call, and I'm in the living room on this couch watching the Zoom call. And Caitlin starts talking, and I legit black out. I have no recollection of what she even talked about, because it was all of a sudden, I mean, she talked about enough things for me to the wheels start turning in my head. And we got off the call, and I said, Chantel, I feel like I figured out how we could implement these ideas in the gym in a way that wouldn't be like, raise your hand if you're doing it, raise your hand if you're this. But what if we created some principles around this, and we could run our classes in a way where women, no matter where they are in their menstrual cycle, they, in the group, could be in class, but train and work out with their bodies, participate with their bodies where they are hormonally, whether they're bleeding, whether they're in follicular, whether they're ovulating, or whether they're in luteal.
Yeah,
And
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know how, but what Caitlin was saying, that she had said something, and then I just blacked out and I wrote down all of these ideas, and then you and I just got together and we really started developing principles. And so I remember the first day you came into the gym and you were like, I have an idea of here's how we can start, because we needed to test our ideas, because there's things online for individuals of how do you train as an individual, but there's not a blueprint or anything of how you do this for a group class, how you do this for a group class and keep community together. Because for me, you're reading this book and it's saying, okay, well, for these 2 weeks of your cycle, go do yoga or Pilates and walk. And then for this part, you can do your HIIT classes and you can lift heavy weights. And so I'm looking at this going, okay, so that means I need 4 different gym memberships to get all these things in. But I'm also a gym owner who's created a community, and our ladies don't want to leave for 2 weeks to go do yoga and then come back for the 2 weeks that they want to lift weights or something like that. And so it was, how do we keep that community together? And so I remember when you came into the gym and you said, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I remember that too. Cause I remember thinking, okay, so I think one of the coolest things that we do is we take into consideration, is to what's actually happening inside the body when we move. And we can use movement to influence our nervous system, right? And so we are already doing things differently than other gyms are.
Just swimming upstream.
Exactly. And so with that, we were already taking movement and we were using it to influence the nervous system. And so in turn, things were changing already in people's bodies.
We were implementing breath on a different level, and then implementing another level of connection with muscle as well. So yeah, we were.
Yes. And so,
which I think made this possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with the nervous system, knowing that we can use movement to influence both sides of the nervous system, we can use the breath to influence both sides of the nervous system. And so in knowing that we were already doing that, and now taking the awareness of even how a woman's body evolves over time, but then also looking at what it looks like through her cycle, where she's at hormonally, and then what do those hormones need? And then not only that, but how can we express and use, right, those chemicals that are moving around in our body? How can we optimize that? And in turn, not only that, but we can look at okay, in this part of our cycle, it's better for us to do heavier weights and to be more expressive, and us to exhale, and us to maybe get a little bit rowdy. And here we want to stay a little bit more under tension at a pace, at an intensity that we can manage with our breath, right? Because we want our body to respond favorably. And so, and not just favorably in a way that looks like, you're losing fat and gaining muscle, but also
because let's be honest, we lose fat in our diet. We don't have fat loss workouts. We work out to build muscle,
yes,
to be strong and to be fit.
Yes.
And the fat loss comes when we create proper nutrition.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
This ad sponsored by.
Yes. And that's the other way that we can influence the nervous system too, right? Is through food.
Yeah.
And so we look at okay, if we take women who are doing workouts at high intensity and they're losing their periods, that is not okay.
That's not health.
It's not health. It's not okay. It's
not healthy.
No, it's not okay. I feel like we're making a remix.
It's one of the most important vital signs that you have, along with heartbeat. All of your vital signs.
Yes.
Just lost them. They just went out of my brain. But your menstrual cycle is one of those.
Is one of the vital signs. So if it's inconsistent, if it's missing, if it is, it could obviously mean that there's something going on in other stages of your life. But if you are a from the time that you start your period to around like 35 or 40, and things are pretty consistent, you look to that to know that, like, if it's inconsistent, your body is overly stressed. And so whether that be through nutrition or whether that be through working out, but so often what we do is we will work out to the point where it's so stressful and so much, and we will undereat, where then our period disappears. And so what we did was we said, okay, if we can influence all these things and we can work out hard still and not over stress the system, but stress it in a way that we still get the benefit of working out, then how do we do that? Right? And I remember us when we opened the gym back up, I was like, I'm going to give choices for the girls. And so
we started with two choices,
put both workouts on the board.
And didn't tell them what we were doing.
Nope. And said, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. And then I wrote their names on the side of the board, and they picked the workout. And I said, I just want you to pick what feels, what looks like
sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good. Looks like it'll feel good for you, like right now today. And they were like, okay. So we had ladies know right away, immediately, yes, I want A. Other ones, yes, I want B. And then there were a few that were like, I'm not really sure. And so I noted that on the side. And then afterwards, I'd asked them, where are you at without saying like, this is why we did this.
Yeah.
Where are you at in your cycle? And some were like, okay, I'm perimenopausal. I'm on birth control. So I don't know where I'm at. I haven't had a period in 3 months or whatever it is. And other ladies who were in menopause. And then the ladies who were like, I'm on my period, or I just finished, 3 days ago, because they still didn't know. Language here in the gym wasn't follicular, ovulation, luteal. That wasn't anything that we talked about. And so I then wrote down just little letters next to, follicular-ish, ovulation-ish, they're on their period. And then the next couple classes. And then we did the same thing over and over again. And then come to find out, we had split these workouts, and we said, okay, so this is more of a follicular-based workout, follicular ovulation workout. This is more luteal. And so, but then the way it came out was almost exactly how we thought it was going to.
I mean, there was things that were off.
Yeah.
There was patterns that.
Yes. And how we thought it was going to be was, okay, the ladies that were in follicular and ovulation, they're going to choose A. It's higher intensity. It's, or the other gals who were in luteal, closer to their period, they chose what we thought would feel good with where you're at hormonally, what sounds good.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, okay, now we're done, we're finished, we like created this thing. There was still, and it still is, we're still modifying things and changing things.
Okay, wait. Let's just stop for a second, because we did the 2 for a little while. And then we were, because the goal was to create intention around this, not just, do this and do this. It was intentionally okay, here's how this workout should feel. Here's here's the intention behind this workout. And here's the intention behind this workout. Right. And then it was, and again, there's nowhere to look as to how to do this in a group setting. We have knowledge of different phases, but then how do you build this for groups? And so then we were like, okay, well, let's try 3 or 4 different. We had 4. We had 4 different. So then we were programming 4 different workouts, and we had a lot of a lot of principles that we had laid out. We didn't really have any principles, so there was just different workouts. And since then, we've created some pretty solid parameters to make programming a lot easier, because there's some coaches out there going, I'm not going to program 4 workouts in a day. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it was totally ridiculous. But we were trying something, right? I mean, we were putting in the legwork, we were trying things, we were seeing what would work, and then noticing that things didn't work, or that, okay, this is great, but then it doesn't feel like community, right? With 4, it just felt a little discombobulated in the gym.
Yeah, it definitely got too spread out, and then it also just got, they then had to be not necessarily too in tune with themselves, but it wasn't like here, or here. It was
and I think it was like maybe A, B, C, D. It wasn't, there wasn't language.
No, there wasn't to even describe like what it was. And so it was a little confusing, but yet not.
It was a lot confusing.
You know,
I mean, we kind of knew what we wanted to do, but our girls were patient with us as
Yes.
we were growing. And we told them along the way,
yeah,
we're trying something. We think we're onto something. We don't really know where to look. There's nowhere to look. We're just kind of doing this thing.
Yeah,
so
where it's like,
bear with
well,
us.
why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You know, that's when it really came down to, well, why are we even doing this? We're doing this because we want to optimize where women are at. If we can stress their bodies in a way that can produce greater strength, greater cardiovascular capacity,
better sleep,
better
digestion,
better sex,
better menstrual cycles.
Yes, all the things that are like girls that were just very inconsistent with things hormonally across the board. Is there a way that we can help them, you know, spend, if that's what you want to say, like the estrogen during certain times, right? And have like an expression. Is there ways that we can do this where it doesn't feel not weird, but overly complicated? And so we knew that there was a way. And so we just needed to stick with it. And we eventually ended up with 3 choices, right? Where they have 3 choices now. They're very similar, all the same movement. So it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't having to have half of the room do Pilates while the other half does, you know, strength training. And then the middle half does martial arts.
Yeah.
It was like, no.
That would be so stressful.
It would be so stressful.
And we even had new coaches at the time when we were developing this and bringing them into it, and they were able to just move into it because it wasn't really, really complicated, because it wasn't it's not really a step-by-step thing, but it's creating intention. So the language, which I think probably was the hardest thing for us, how many times we would change what A, B, and C were called because language matters and because the word mattered. So when we said it, like, oh, that's what I know I'm going to do today. So we have this language where, okay, the girls that are doing performance, they know that that's what they're doing, right? The ladies that are doing completion, they know the intention of completion. And then we have recovery, which is exactly what it sounds like, but the intentions are all based around movement, around breath, around how you're doing what you're doing, instead of just I'm mindlessly doing things. And so, but what's also really helpful is that all of these different performance, completion, and recovery can be choices for women who are perimenopausal, who are in menopause, and who are postmenopausal. And there can still be, which is why we believe that this could be implemented in every gym, because not every man wants to do performance every single day. Not every day do you want to come in as a man and lift heavy all the time, right? There's gotta be that men have their own cycle, and what that looks like is very different from ours, but there's a freedom in the choices, which I think was I don't know about this for you, but did you have hesitation in offering multiple choices throughout the workout? Because I think some people may be listening to this saying, well, you can't give people choices, you just need to tell them what to do. And if you're going to have this and this and this, like, people are going to pick the easy way out all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's so unique about our space too, is as a coach, I did feel that way, because people are coming to us, and this is really just how we roll here anyway, is that we help people like take responsibility for their lives, you know, and instead of coming to the gym and being made to do the workout and made to do this, like, we give you a choice, right? It's like choosing the language that people use even when they choose to be on a diet, where it's like, I can't have that. No, you're choosing not to have it, you know? And so when you come here and we ask you to do something hard, and as your coach, you know, we're helping you, right? But we've always believed in like, we don't want people to be dependent on us. We don't want people to come in and just completely check out. We want to teach women how to make the hard decision, and then they own the hard decision.
Yeah.
Right. And then not only that, they chose to do the hard thing, they made it through the hard thing. And so then they become their own hero, right? We don't become the hero in their story. We don't become the ones that are like, no doubt we're here to help them, but they get to choose. And that was one of the cool things that we both got to experience
early
with girls.
on. Yeah.
They were
early
like,
on,
I
it was
chose
like,
to do
yes, early on, I think that was for me when I knew we were on to something, was women would leave and the statement of, I'm just so glad I chose that, was so cool, because we were opening this space of choice, obviously offering constraints and boundaries in, it wasn't just like, well, do whatever you want, you know, which some of our ladies like to be like, well, I want to do this and this and this. And you have to let them know that's not actually what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You know?
And no doubt there's some ladies who choose the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And then we're like,
and you kind of just
okay,
give them the side eye a little bit, like,
like,
sister,
okay, when was the last
you
time
chose recovery like every day,
yeah.
so you
What's
pick something
going on?
else. Yeah,
Yep.
Knowing, oh, you probably do need a little bit of intensity in this way, or you do need to win in this way, or you know. But I think for me that was when I really knew, oh my gosh, we're really onto something, because when we have freedom, we can make choices, and we then become responsible to our choices. But freedom also means that, oh my gosh, you're giving me this freedom, you trust me. And so them being able to choose gave them the power over what they were doing, and they were choosing it, and then they were taking responsibility for it. We gave them the boundaries, but then they slowly began to trust themselves a little bit more. But something else that we found that was so interesting was that a lot of women who were on birth control, which as women, our hormones, they fluctuate, right? They change 25% throughout the month. Like, that's a big change. We do this, right? Masculine male hormones, testosterone rises in the morning and then it tapers off throughout the day. But ours does this. Our hormones are never really the same day to day.
On like a 30-day,
Yeah.
on like a monthly clock.
Yeah.
Versus,
and they're not supposed to.
Yeah, versus a man's, which is a 24-hour, right? So they are the day, and then they restart that same cycle, the rise and the drop. And then as women, it's throughout the entire month.
Yeah.
So we can go, like, there's not, what is there? Only like 2 days where our brain chemistry is the same throughout the month.
Yeah.
It always...
It's very different. But we don't love that we do this, so then we just want to make it do this.
Yeah.
Right?
We want the flat line.
So, yeah, just be a little bit more consistent so we don't feel crazy or whatever. But we might just need some more balance in our life. We might have a dysregulated nervous system, not an issue in our menstrual cycle. But if you have a dysregulated nervous system, you're probably going to have some issues with your menstrual cycle. Or if you've got some issues with your menstrual cycle, you may have some nervous system issues. But there was a lot of women who on birth control, which can sometimes feel and hormonally can just sort of just suppress some things, can sometimes feel like a low grade antidepressant, where a lot of women they just don't feel like themselves. And so then when there were choices that came up, what we noticed was that women that were on birth control really had a hard time knowing what they wanted, right? And there's more research coming out that you should not pick a mate while you're on birth control, because you may not be making the best choice for what it is that you really want and what you really need, because of the way that your hormones are, being
manipulated or suppressed.
Yeah. And so the for some ladies trying to choose, and then even as we were giving choices like this, realizing, oh my gosh, there's some women, these women that are on birth control, they're really struggling to find intensity, which feels really, you almost feel bad, because we need the intensity, like we need the release, but then we're also, women who are on birth control aren't getting a real release of the lining of their uterus either. So they're not getting a true bleed and a true release, which is part of what menstruation is an opportunity to flush out and then to rebuild. And so we noticed these things, and then some girls were like, I've been wanting to get off birth control for a while, or
mind you, a lot of these women aren't on birth control because they're not trying to get pregnant.
Yes.
They're not sexually active. They are, and they're not on birth control just in case.
Having babies.
Exactly. Or these women are on birth control for treatment of certain things, of mood disorder or
an irregular period, rather than
Exactly.
getting to the root of it. Just putting you on birth control to make it just stop.
Yeah. And there's like
Band-Aid.
horrific stories of women just being put on it just so that they are younger and they have acne. Okay. So then, all right, well, I
got put on birth control.
Me
because I had
too.
acne.
Me too. And
Or I just was moody. Yeah.
and it's like, it's not okay to be moody, you know,
But our hormones do this.
do that. And that's actually how we were designed. So it's saying,
Yes.
okay, the design was wrong. We need to flatline you. And then you really do. Talking to someone who is on birth control, and then when they get off of it, they feel different.
Yeah.
They feel different, not because they're out of control, but they feel different because they feel more, you know, they feel more, they're more expressive, and it's quite incredible. But you can look at it and say like, okay, well, you know, birth control is important if you don't want to get pregnant and there's obviously lots of different types of birth control. And, you know, so I know that there's a time and a place. Yes, there is definitely a time and a place. And so, but acknowledging what it actually does to your body, to your system, to your personality, to your hormones is really important. And they don't often tell parents who put their kids on birth control what's actually happening. They don't tell the person that they're putting on birth control, hormonal birth control, like what is actually happening. And I think it's really important to know, to take all the things into consideration and then make the choice. If you still want to make the choice, that's great.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time these people are participating in this because they feel like it's their only option. It's medical advice, you know.
Or there's just not really another choice that's given.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the beautiful thing is that you decide, okay, I want to get off birth control. I want to regulate my period. But there's a lot of girls and women who have come into the gym on birth control because they had horrible periods or they had very irregular periods. And then watching them follow the Flo Effect, train with us on a regular basis, and make choices for where they're at or paying attention to their body and what they need. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have a regular period. I haven't had a regular period since I was 12 years old, which is so cool. It takes some time to regulate, but when we begin to understand all the phases of the menstrual cycle and what's happening there, and we learn to partner with that, right?
It's a freaking superpower.
It's amazing.
It's a superpower when we started looking at like, okay, you've already mentioned the names of the different choices that we give our ladies when they come in. And I think what is really cool to, like, when you said performance, like when you think or even hear the word performance, you think tested, measured, you know, like there's uncertainty. And so at points in your cycle, that sounds very exciting, and it sounds like a challenge, and you might fail, but you know what, that excites you. And so
you just want to see, what can I do?
What have I
just wonder.
got? I want to see how fast I can go. I want to see how many reps I can do. I want to see if I can pick up that bag because I've never picked it up before. I want to carry it as far as I can, you know. So there's lots of uncertainty, and so there's lots of challenge, and so you're more okay with failing, and you just want to see what you've got, right? And so that's exciting. And at certain points in a woman's cycle, that is so exciting for her. But at other times, That is not exciting
sounds
at all.
awful.
It sounds horrible. It sounds like if I fail today, I fail at life.
I might break.
If I fail today, I'm the worst mother, wife, daughter. I don't even know what I'm doing in the world. I have no purpose, right? It sounds so dramatic, but
it's really how it feels
is. Sometimes it's like, yeah, it's where we're at.
Yeah.
And so then there's the other choice, completion. Completion is, this is what you have to do today. You do this many of this, you do this many of this, you do this, this, and this.
We
and then
eliminate
you do that.
surprises.
Exactly.
We're not wondering, could I do this? We're choosing things that we know that we can complete a task. The box feels checked and we did it. And
it's creating a win. Right? It's saying like, okay, in performance, I can fail and still feel like I won because I found my capacity today. But in completion, when the ladies are when they are closer to their period and they're in that luteal phase of their cycle, and it is, I want to know, like, you're more like that mama bear. You're a little bit more aggressive. You don't want to run, a 5K. So looking at like heavier weights and things that that you can do, right? And then there's the recovery phase where movement is more cyclical. These are, I didn't sleep well the night before. I didn't sleep at all the night before.
I'm on my period.
Recovery
was created for being on your period. That was the goal of it. And knowing, like I said, had we not been working with breath and the nervous system and intention for the last a lot of years, this would have been really hard. But now our ladies know, okay, we're focusing on more of these muscles in this way, right? It's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. Because I could take all of these movements and do the exact same thing for performance or completion. But then in recovery, I am nasal breathing. We're allowing the ladies to move throughout the workout as long as they want. And even in saying do as many as you want, you can watch women who've never heard that before in a gym. They're like, wait, what? Wait, no, just tell me what to do.
As many as I want. I don't want to do any.
Yeah.
I want to go home and sit on the couch.
Or I want you to tell me how many I do so I make sure I do the right amount.
I want you to make me do things right now.
But the cool thing has
I'm your
been,
subject.
Yeah, but the cool thing has been is that the ladies don't do that.
No, they don't.
They take advantage of recovery. They use recovery as a recovery day.
And it also gives you a good opportunity to make a deeper connection with your clients and with the ladies in class or anybody in class, right? So it's the things that they choose, like the women who choose performance, they are ready to rock and roll. And so you're behind them lighting a fire. And so they are like, they're moving faster and you're encouraging them like, come on, like you only have this much time left. And so it's challenging. With the other, it's like, okay, in completion, it's like, all right, like, a little bit longer under tension.
Yeah. Or they're like, what weight should I use? And then you're like, let me help you. Because you don't really know. You don't want to make too many decisions, but you also might need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
And so there's the place of just being able to help them a little bit more.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I think what happens when people try to this kind of like a hot topic right now, of like, do women need to work out differently than men?
Yeah.
And it's when you look at this, we're not saying that a woman who's on her period can't do performance, or that she can't do completion.
Absolutely.
Or a woman who's doing completion, or who would quote fit, like, and why completion we feel like is the most fitting at this point in your cycle. Like women who are in luteal can do performance. Women who are in follicular can do recovery. They can do completion. You can do whatever you want to do. And you can. It's not a matter of like want to, but you actually can. It's just those principles of how stressed out is your body right now, hormonally. Are you late luteal right before you start your period? Your body is working really hard right now. It's very stressed out. Did you eat enough today? Right? So the increase in calories that's needed during that point in time in your cycle. And so if you didn't eat very much and your body is working hard, right? And then you start your period, like your body's exhausted. It's done a lot in that amount of time. Are you even aware of how much it's doing on the inside?
Yeah.
Most of us don't. And so we're still just as hard on it, even though it might be stressed a little bit more.
But don't you remember those days where one day you're feeling like an absolute champion? Mm-hmm. You could run a marathon and do 1,000 burpees, and then you turn around the next day and you have zero motivation, and you're wondering what's wrong with you. Mm-hmm. Or you're following.
Probably went from ovulation to luteal.
Yeah, it's day one of luteal, duh.
Yeah, and then you're like, can you please stop chewing so loud?
Totally, and put some deodorant on.
Yeah, because you stink. Somebody stink?
Yeah, and can you stop talking so loud? Thank you. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Everything is just annoying.
Yeah, your hormones are a little high. Your stress hormones are a little higher. You're in a mama bear mode. Your body is thinking there could be a baby, and so it's protecting it at all costs by heightening your nervous system and your all of your senses so that you're better prepared. And people can be a little bit annoying then.
Yeah.
But knowing that sometimes we have to be compassionate enough, and I don't mean by compassionate as in letting yourself out of doing the hard things. That's not what we're talking about here, which I think can be a really big misconception about this is that, oh, well, you're just not going to do hard things at this time of the month. And sometimes we have to remind the ladies, that's not what this is. None of these are easier, because you'll find some ladies when they're new to the gym, they'll just pick the one they think is the hardest. But that's not actually the point. They could all be really hard in different ways.
Yeah.
But when we are my train of thought just like literally left my brain as to where I'm going. It's seriously, bring it back.
If I could tell you where you were going,
if you could tell me, that would be amazing. Right? Oh, yep, no. So you're doing a squat program, right? You're a power lifter, or you're doing Olympic lifting, or you're running a marathon, and you have this training program that's built around percentages or mileage or something like that, right? And your 95% 1 rep max falls in luteal, and you don't hit it 95% 1 rep max. That's not what that is. But you're working 95%, or you're supposed to hit a 1 rep max.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Yeah.
Maybe on that day, that's just not going to be the case. That doesn't mean that you suck, or that you've gotten unfit, or that you're less strong. Hormonally, there's just different things happening there, and you may not be apt to lift that then, or trying to do a 1 rep max while you're on your period, or right before you start your period. So giving yourself grace for that.
We start doing really weird stuff too, like during that, like when things like that happen. I feel like then we go through, it's not even like a phase, but we start feeling like if we go on vacation for 2 weeks and we don't work out, and then we come back and
we've lost all of our fitness.
We've lost all of our fitness, where it's like, no, you haven't. Or the time where, like, I remember some of the coolest moments. Like, I remember a PR in my deadlift, and you and I were actually at a competition in Portland.
Oh yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I was ovulating because I just felt like Superwoman, like I could run through a door. And then, because you and I work out together, and I remember when we were doing CrossFit together, and you would always lift more than me, always. And so anytime that we would be lifting together, I would always kind of like measure where I was going to be by where you were, because I know that you're not afraid of the pain cave no matter where you're at. And so I remember thinking like, okay, here's this bar. I'm going to deadlift 285 pounds. And then you went up and I think you attempted it.
I don't even think I got that thing off the ground.
I don't think you got it off the ground either. And I was like, oh, homegirl's doing this.
Yeah.
I am doing this today.
Yeah.
Like, I remember.
And you did it so easily.
And then I remember when I was done, I was like, can I put some more weight on? Like,
yeah.
I was shocked. But it was that where the next, if I would have done that like the next week, that probably wouldn't have happened, but in that, when those moments, we need to take those moments and say like, all right, like I did an amazing job, but not compare all of the other moments to that one, and it was horrible. Like the timing, it's not like the stars align and all that stuff, but it really is like
your hormones too.
Your hormones align. Yes. Like my hormones right now are fueling me, and if my mental like capacity, not even capacity, but my strength and my will are all matching, man, I'm going to do that. But when we start to understand how they work, it's really cool, because then we can really start to hold ourselves a little bit more accountable.
Yeah.
Where it's not a day where we're flipping a coin and being like, is this the day I'm going to do this, or is this the day where I'm not going to do this?
Yeah.
It's, okay, I'm ovulating right now. Like my body is prepared to rip this thing off of the ground.
Yeah.
And so am I going to partner with that ability, or am I going to sit on my hands?
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm going to partner with it. Or so I think that is, it's just day in and day out, when women come into the gym, they get such a, they get to look at themselves like, where am I at? You know? And I think that's the most beautiful thing of this entire, of the Flo Effect, is that you get to take what's happening in your body and you get to acknowledge it, and then you get to partner with it, and then see what you're capable of. Yeah. And I think that is so cool.
And I remember too, one of the most challenging parts, it was for me when we were developing all of this, was watching as we were fumbling through this and feeling the disconjointedness of community when we started doing this.
Yes.
And how do we wrestled for a really long time of how do we keep everybody together as a group, instead of, because you may have one lady that's on her period and then everybody else is in luteal, which is kind of funny, because now we start to, you know, I was talking to the guy on push press yesterday, I was kind of telling him what we do, and he goes, okay, so but girls like all of a sudden kind of sync up when they hang out a lot, right? And I'm like, yeah. And so sometimes we have a class where everybody chooses performance, you know, but there were these growing pains, because it's been like 3 years of us doing this, like really big growing pains of how to keep the cohesion of community with the individuality of every woman and where they are. That was really hard. Where they are, and honoring that. Yeah. Right. And knowing, okay, so some of you guys are not going to want to do a buddy workout today because you don't want anybody to talk to you, but you wanted to get out of your house, so you came to the gym. But today it's only a buddy workout. Well, no, it'll be a buddy workout for performance, because they're stoked about being with other people. They're like on it. Yes. Whereas some girls in completion and recovery are like, get me away from people. No, let me go by myself and wander around outside with a sandbag until I come back and want to go home. Yeah. Yeah. Right? But it's just been this beautiful journey of learning how to do this. And I think for us now, we're really in this space of how do we get this all on paper to teach coaches how to do this, and to put our brains and our experimenting into a space and into a package that is multipliable. Yes. Right. That is helpful, that doesn't feel like it makes things harder, but it actually can simplify things, but then also not make it weird inside of the gym. And so this is definitely something we've been wrestling through for a long time, and really wanted to share it. And it's part of, I feel like, why even like the Flo Effect could be like what we had said in the beginning. It is, there are principles, you know, and there's an understanding as to why these things are important. And then these principles, the beauty of principles is they can be applied in any situation, right? So you and I can go into a CrossFit gym, and knowing what we know with performance, completion, and recovery, like we can look at things and say, okay, this workout that looks like, you know, the filthy 50, what am I going to do in here, right? Like even cyclical movement, like you can change, or not even change, you can look at any workout and very easily modify it and
easily apply these principles to the movements and to the workouts. And that's kind of the beauty. It does seem overwhelming where you're like 3 different workouts, but they're all so similar.
The intentions are just different.
They are. Yeah.
So you can sort of get more ideas of what we do by going to our Drop Gym Effect Instagram. We post a lot of stuff there on that.
Yes.
Hopefully soon we'll have a course out that we can do maybe some seminars.
Yes.
And
for
really
male
be able
and
to
female coaches.
Yeah, because this is important for women, but this is also important for people who are coaching women to understand this.
Yeah.
And it's really helpful, but also understanding it in a way that we don't have to make this weird, and we don't have to make it a big, fiasco of like, okay, who's bleeding? Who feels great? So that was a really fun conversation.
Yeah. It was a great convo.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, not really. No, I thought that was wonderful.
You want to tell them where to find us?
Yes. Yeah. Like Lou had mentioned, you can find us or a lot of the, even just like workouts. If you want like, okay, I want an idea of what these workouts look like, you can find us on Drop Gym Effect on Instagram. And then our local community is Drop Gym Medford. And then Lou and I both, Lou has an Instagram, Lou Crenshaw.
Lou Crenshaw.
Yeah.
LUCRENSHAW.
Not LEW? Lou.
Fuddruckers. It happened at Fuddruckers once. I was in college.
Lou.
They asked me what my name was. And then all of a sudden over the intercom, you hear over the microphone, order for Liu?
Liu? LEW.
And I went up to the front and on the receipt, LEW. And the way that she pronounced it made it make way more sense.
I never get.
Where can they find you?
Like, Chantel.Dayton.
Awesome.
Yep. Chantel, not Chantel.
Yeah. You can also find all of our events and things of that nature, more of what we do on dropgym.com.
Yep.
On the internets. We do have a Facebook.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know.
Apparently it was just hacked.
Yeah, it was just hacked. There was some stuff on
Simon Cowell.
Yeah, did something. Who knows?
Died, but he didn't really.
Oh.
Died, but he didn't really.
Okay.
But did he? Did he not? You must click here to find out, Camp 17 says.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Right.
well, that's a wrap, folks.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Have a great day.
We will see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.